It's Tuesday night, and that means it's blog time. Today, the topic that came up to me while I was driving home from work tonight was dealing with setbacks, aka dealing with life. All kinds of things can come up. The reason this topic was sparked for me was a pretty minor setback, really. I was doing a workout today, and people usually post about the ones, they crushed it, they lift so much weight, they went so fast, those are the ones that you usually hear about. Today was not one of those workouts. It was pretty tough, not a skill I'm very good at. It was, for those in the CrossFit world, it was clean and jerk, and I am not very good at the jerk portion of that. That overhead is really tough for me, and it wasn't going so hot. And at a certain point, I hit failure, and I was so frustrated, and I was just thinking, oh, I can't do it. And I was so defeated. And then I stopped, and I had to remind myself, well, okay, so no matter what, this weight isn't going over my head. Okay, that's a given. Now I have two choices here as I see it. I can get all bent out of shape, I can get frustrated about it, I can get mad, I can let it ruin my whole day, or I can accept the reality of what's going on and continue with my day. And it took a couple seconds to get into my head, but I was able to talk myself off the ledge, and I had a pretty good day. And that's definitely not something that I would have been capable of in the past, that's for sure. But in the end, I'm really glad I ended up choosing that option, because a lot of times in life there are things that are completely outside of our control, and the one thing we can control is how we react to them. So I'm trying to think of the exact quote. Paraphrasing is pretty much what I said, but there's this really awesome book that I recommend to everyone ever called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. And one chapter is dealing with this same kind of issue. And the way he describes it is within that athletic perspective. And you can either, actually he came at it from a chess, because he was a former chess prodigy, and the way he described it was people would get into a situation where they were losing, but they felt that they should be winning. They felt it should be different, and so they would play aggressively. They would make sloppy mistakes. They would just keep throwing good after bad, and they just lose. Whereas those who could say, okay, I'm losing, it's time to change the strategy. I've got to accept the reality the way it is, and I've got to react appropriately. And those who didn't stood no chance, kind of thing. And that applies not only to chess, not only to a bad weightlifting session or whatever, but it applies to every area of life. So you don't get the job, you don't get the girl, whatever, you can let your life be ruined, or you can adapt appropriately and move on, that kind of thing. And it kind of comes down to control the controllables. So another parable from that same book is this man comes across this desert covered with sharp stones, and he needs to get to the other side. So he can do two things with his, since he has bare feet, and he can either spend his fortune, he can spend his life building a road across this desert, he can pave it, he can make sure it's constantly maintained for good use, or he can put on a pair of sandals. And what the book encourages you to do is to put on that pair of sandals, metaphorically or literally, as the case may be. So I'm going to challenge you to find your own barren rocky desert and your own pair of sandals and see what you can do with it. See you next time.